Good evening. Welcome to Trends KE Show this Thursday. I'm yours truly, KK Cedrick. And today there is just a lot lined up for you. I hope you shall go with me up to the end. Thanks so much for watching the show last week. I appreciate for all your feedback. There's so much that has been happening this week. And just right now, I've been checking my phone and people are on the case of the president, all the way from DRC. They are saying that the president should hit the gym. I don't know what you think about that because of a photo that has resurfaced that was taken. And well, I think we should leave the president alone because he's quite stressed. Leading an economy where 2 billion shillings is getting lost every other day, you can quite be stressed. But I don't know if getting stressed would lead you into that. Talking of body weight, have you people seen Aoko Otieno? Those of you know Aoko Otieno. She is looking different and different in a good way. If you compare her photos previously and the photos she just posted recently on her platform, I think my producer has that photo of Aoko Otieno, if you can bring it up. The girl has totally changed. I don't know if it was the gym or what exactly she has done. And I think some people will need to take a few lessons from her. You'll have to visit Aoko Tieno and check out what she's doing. My producer, if you have that photo. So, as I was telling you, the people are on the case of the president, and they want him to hit the gym because they're saying he looks a bit bigger in body, but I think it was just the shade, or the person who took the photo maybe did take it from the best angle. I'm seeing you are tuning in. Thank you very much, Kimathi, Masio Achieng. Thank you very much for tuning in. So let me take you straight to the things that have been trending this week. And first of all, yeah, that's the photo of Aoko Otieno. Hey, if you go to her profile and check her previous photo, which she has posted along that, you'll know that she has changed a big deal and she's looking quite amazing. Yeah. And you people, if I take you back, I think the way you look at this will totally change after you hear the story that has been trending for the longest time, for about 2 days. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a woman who came out to say that she was planning to cheat on her husband and then use matchsticks to confuse the DNA. I don't know how that happens, so that the baby looks like her, and then the husband will not know that she cheated. Oh my God. So when the rest of the world is making inventions, billion-dollar inventions, and seeking for the vaccine, for us here, our inventions are aimed at cheating, stealing, and thuggery. So Kiberiti has been trending for the longest time, and we just pray that the price will not hike because itaumiza mwananchi mdogo. We still want it to still go at the price that it has been. So please don't try that at home. And speaking of thuggery, did you people get to watch the story that was dubbed Guns Gallo? That story was running on Citizen TV. So apparently the police bosses have come out to deny the allegations that those guns and handcuffs and whatever that were found there were not actually from the police. They're saying that those things are not ours. We don't know them. We even Mr. Kinoti was saying, I have never seen this nowhere before. Okay, it may be so in their defense, but still these things were found somewhere, and it means they are in circulation. And if they are in circulation, if actually the person who hired it, that story was done by Purity Mwambia. She managed to hire guns, ammunitions, and even regalia belonging to police. It means if those things are doing rounds out here, if they had been hired by the wrong hands, they would have done something terrible. And My other problem is for those of you who are hiring handcuffs and you are not tags, you have to tell us what you are hiring the handcuffs for. Okay. Another thing that has been trending in this past week, the newest kid on the block, who is actually a kid, after school's closed, she's back with another jam. This time, I'm talking about Trio Mio. This time featuring Penagitu, AJ, and Bonai. Steve Simple Boy, he's also up with his, featuring some white girls. If you can see, my producer, if you can play that, if you have it, from Steve Simple Boy. Okay, those of you who are tuning in, thank you very much. Steven Karanja, all the way from Las Vegas, thank you very much for tuning in. The Millennial Christian present, thank you very much. John Abdub, ako ndani kabisa. Thank you very much, John Abdub. Thank you very much for all of you who are tuning in. Speaking of Stivo, as we wait for that, there is also Man Stivo. I'm talking about Kalonzo. Kalonzo has turned into a comedian. Last week, he worked on a comedy with, if you know, Crazy Kenna. Kalonzo worked on a comedy with Crazy Kenna. And the funny thing, in this comedy that they worked on, I think you have to see it first, then you'll judge for yourself. Hey, it so happens that Man Stivo has to be a watermelon even on script. So fine. Thank you very much for those who are tuning in. Nicole Caroline Omolo, asante sana. Quinta Otieno, thank you. Shanta Cherono, thank you, Shen. Elizabeth Chege, thanks, Liz, for tuning in. Kagigo Mwalida, all the way from TZ. Gigs, thank you very much. Lor Gisa, asante sana, Lor. Thank you for all of you for tuning in. On to our next story. Do you remember this jam, Tano Tena, by Ben Kidai? Apparently, Kenyans have come out on online platforms. They are now taking all their blame on Ben Kidai for that tune. Wanasema hiyo ngoma iliwachanganya. I don't know. Kenyans, when they get in trouble, they just have to find someone whom to vent their emotions to. So I think we have
to the state house, Uhuru Ruto, Tano Tena. I was confused, my father. I was confused, my father. Saitani took me to the darkness. Jesus, he found me. I am Upatibo.
I don't know why that last part was added to it. I don't know how they are connected though. Okay, thank you, Mimi Bree. Thanks for tuning in, Mimi Bree. Oriwo Samuel Okech, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks, Lorgisa, Malida, Shen, thank you very much. Barbara, I've seen your message. Thank you very much for tuning in. Kisi guy, eh? Thank you very much. So, if you can remember, there were a series of demonstrations sometime back in the United States over the murder of George Floyd. So, the case was in court, and the jury finalized that sometime this week, and it was declared that the guy, Derek Chauvin, the cop, was found guilty of some cases of third-degree murder, and currently waiting for sentencing. So the family received the news live, and this was their reaction. Let's listen in.
Count three. We determine the above entitled matter as to count three. Second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk. Find the defendant guilty.
got justice. We got justice. We won. Okay? We won. He may not be here, but we won. I'm going to pray for this man. I'm going to pray for him, you know, because that's not how our family, that's not how we do. But I'm going to tell you something. I thought I was going to lose my life when I got that news. And like I said, to see him handcuffed and walk out of that courthouse like my brother was handcuffed, that told me he has no more power. He's not in control anymore, but my brother is in control. We can never get him back. 27 million, it don't matter. We can never get him back. There's nothing left here to remind us but a memory of his face and the love we have for him. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy right now. God, if you could just feel every beat of my heart, you know. I'm so happy. What's his name? His name!
And that's the first time a cop had been sentenced for killing a black man in that state. On to our last trend, and before we get to our very last trend, let me remind you that we shall be having a discussion. And in our discussion today, we're talking about sexual offenses and the law. And we have Wakili in the house. He's on backstage. We are waiting for him to get back after our last trend. And I'm urging you to keep sending your questions. Send your questions in regards to sexual offenses and the law. What do you want to know about that? Just send them in the comment sections and I shall be reading your questions. For those who are still tuning in, Peter George, thank you. Chumo, Kibet, thank you. Vivian Korir, continue tuning in and send your questions in regards to the topic that we are going to discuss tonight. Thank you, Ros Lorgisa. And on our last topic, for the past few days, people have been sleeping on the road, literally sleeping on the road. Because of the curfew hours. So the curfew hours comes, roadblock, stay where you are until morning comes. And the police in some instances wamekuwa hata wakiwasha moto. Kuna moto wewe unakuja tu kama uko na mahindi hapo ama kama uko na vitu gani unataka kuchoma, unaota moto hadi asubuhi mpaka time masaa ya curfew itaisha. So some people have been gotten into that and some affected negatively. Let's watch this clip about that.
Upande mahali
you can see so many cars on the road. Some people are stuck going to hospital and they cannot get there. So because of time, we shall be getting straight into that discussion. Those tuning in, please, if you have questions, send them. Joyce Lim, Karina, tuned, thank you. Charles Musembi, thank you very much. I have your question. We shall be asking our guest. So our guest tonight is a lawyer and a political commentator, Mr. Nelson Mandela Vujeri himself. Welcome to the show, sir. Kindly unmute your mic if you can get me. Let's try and see if we can get the volume up. Patricia Combo, Joseph Kagunda, thank you very much for tuning in. Joseph Kagunda, thank you very much for tuning in. Let's try and get fix that volume for our guest, and then we start going. So keep sending your questions. One has asked there, what makes it hard for men to assault ladies and vice versa? Trying to get that question. Then he's also asking, why is gender-based violence at a rise in Kenya? Why is gender-based violence at a rise in Kenya? We shall be answering those questions with our guests. My producer, if you can get him back, we see if our volume is working now. Good evening, sir. We are still having a problem with that volume. And why is GBV at a rise in Kenya? Those are the kind of questions we are expecting. Also, you can ask, we are also going to discuss about the age of sexual consent. The age varies in different countries. Some have it at 16, others have it at 13. Some have the age at Kenya is the age of sexual consent is at 18. And we shall be asking our guest why at 18. And then also, there are various forms of sexual offenses, which may include incest, sexual assault, sexual harassment. There is rape, there is defilement. That's what we are going to talk about. And if you have any other questions around that topic of sexual offenses and the law, please keep sending your questions. Patricia Combo, can we have an age bracket? I guess that was supposed to be age bracket for sexual offenses. That's exactly what we shall be asking our guest. And Chumo Kibet, we are tuned in one Polish political commentator and lawyer, Vujeri Mandela. Thank you very much for tuning in, Chumo Kibet. Why is GBV at a rise in Kenya? That's Charles Musembi. We shall have our guest answer that question. Then Daniel Jaka is tuned in, ready to be educated, all the way from India. Thank you very much. That's Daniel Jaka, who is also my producer. He's tuned in all the way from India. Gloria Mokeira is also tuned in. I think we have our guest ready now. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you so much, Cedrick. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, let me first throw a question at you. Have you ever met come across the police? Maybe you are getting arrested. Now, ukawambia, guys, I know the law and I know my rights. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I'll say I've tried before with several other comrades, but it is the I think it's the wrong statement you can ever use when you first encounter police officers, because what the police officers can charge you with anything. So before you confirm them that you know your rights, please comply first.
So you have to comply first before you engage them on how you know the law.
Precisely.
Yeah, and also very fast before we get into our topic, I guess you've been following the ongoing discussions and interviews about search for the new Chief Justice. Let me just have your views on your favorite candidate, because I think we only have one who has remained for the interview. So who is your favorite and why, for those who have already been interviewed?
Now, my favorite candidate for the position of the Chief Justice, the person that the president is going to appoint. He is going to be the Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, serving all Kenyans, whether he's your favorite or not. And therefore, we could just wait for the JSC to forward the names to the president, wait for the parliament to approve, and then we'll have our Chief Justice. I don't have the favorite at this moment until we have a name that will be appointed by the president. That will be my favorite then.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. That was very clever of you to get having the fact that you are operating within the same courts. So let's get into this discussion. And my first question will be about the age of sexual consent in Kenya. Why do you think they arrived at 18? Is 18 a magic number, or why 18?
Now, we cannot say 18 is a magic number, because in other jurisdictions like South Africa, Canada, Singapore, and all those other parts of the world, their age of consent vary from 15. Some other countries have 14. Some other countries have 16. But for us in Kenya, we have 18, which is anchored in the law. And therefore, it is not a magic number. It's not a number that you can say that ultimately that people mature at 18. Some South Africa, one can get married at 15, right? In Hungary, the age of consent is 16, and therefore it is just what the country feels like for us to protect. Remember, the function of the law other than punishing people is equally to protect. And therefore, we tend to think that we can protect these people. When people attain the age of majority, which is 18 as per our law in Kenya, these are people who can make informed decisions. And therefore, from that point, they can be able to choose what is best for them to operate. But before they reach then, the law tends to protect them. And that's why we have 18, because we feel at 18, somebody is probably out of the high school, proceeding to the campus, the community, and therefore at that point, they can be able to be independent and make their own informed decisions.
Yeah, and I think there are deliberations to amend the Sexual Offences Act. From what I have heard, I had some time in the news, and if your approach to give your view on the age of sexual consent, what will be your proposal, and how will that affect in the smoothness of the law on the sexual offences?
Now, it is important for me, if I was approached to have a debate on the age of consent, I'll probably propose 21 years, yeah? Because, you know, if we try to lower the age of consent, and we have predators outside here who are busy salivating upon our young sisters, we might end up having a chaotic society. We don't want to have our children in high school because people don't study at the same rate. Some even finish high school at 19. So if we say that these people can get married at 16, you're going to interfere with their progressive social life. We want these people to be self-independent. We want people to acquire knowledge. These other things are secondary. So we should not have a debate. If at all we'll have a debate on the age of sexual consent, then we should have a debate of taking it to 21, not lowering it below 18 years.
Okay, and very fast, before I go to our audience, I can see they are sending in their questions. There was a report in one of the dailies, newspapers, that the cases of cousins chewing each other have been very much on the rise. And kindly tell us what the law says about incest.
Now, you see, the law is very clear. Yeah. Okay. Normally, people say when somebody say the law is very clear, definitely means it's not so clear, because you say the law is clear and then you spend 1 hour explaining how clear the law is. But there are some things. Yeah, there are some court rulings that have ruled that cousins are not related. But you know, we have to differentiate between what is morally right and what is legally right. Right?
Yeah.
As much as the law, you know, I'll ask you, Cedrick. You'll not tell me the only reason you'll not rape a kid is because you fear going to jail. You should tell me the only reason why you cannot rape is because your morals don't allow. Right? And therefore, we should not have a discussion as whether cousins are related by blood or otherwise. It is something that is morally wrong. Even if a court will give a directive or a parliament to enact a legislation and say cousins can now get married, what stands within us as Africans is our morals comes first, even though we are guided and governed by the rule of law. But equally, we need to bring in our senses, our morality.
Yes.
This,
Thank
as
you.
much as the law might be a bit silent on this, but our morals don't allow.
Yes, our morals will come first in that case. So, and very many lawyers keep saying that the law is very clear. Is the law really very clear? And my reference to this is, and I think I was just deliberating that before someone, Orina Onyonka, brought it up. There is a case by Justice Chitembwe. I think you followed that. And his interpretation of the law is totally different from the law itself and from how other judges would interpret the same law. And what I'm referring for our audience to know is the case where a man had had a sexual relationship with a girl who is 17 years old, And then one court had sentenced the man to 20 years in prison in Mombasa, but then the same man was acquitted by Justice Chitembwe because the girl had even visited the parents and they know each other and they were dating. But the girl is underage. So is the law very clear, or is it a matter of interpretation?
Now, if the law was very clear, then lawyers would have nowhere to eat from, yeah?
Yeah.
But the case you just cited, the chap is the case. The citation is the proper citation is Criminal Appeal number 32 of 2015, Martin Charo versus Republic.
Yeah.
This was a landmark case, although in 2016 it was gazetted as one of the worst decisions in the world in 2016. But you know, the essence of the law, we should have what you call progressive interpretation. The reasoning of the learned judge was, Justice Chitembwe, was, number one, defilement is defined under Section 8 of the Sexual Offences Act. I'll paraphrase: having a sexual relation or causing penetration with a minor. A minor in this case in Kenya being a person under the age of 18. And therefore, there is also a defense. Though in law we term defilement as a strict liability offense.
Yeah.
To this extent, the reasoning of Justice Chitembwe was Section 8, subsection 5 of the Sexual Offences Act. It says to provide that if somebody, a minor, acted in a manner likely to suggest that she was of age, that will be a defense for defilement. In this case, for example, if somebody is a drunkard and he goes to a club or restaurant that only admits people who are above the age of 21, and then you go on that table and then you find a young lady eating from a glass of beer that should be sold to people above the age of 18, and then this person who enters that bar gets into a relationship and gets intimate with this lady that is found in a bar that only admits 21 and above, sipping liquor meant to be sold to people above the age of 18, then this person will have sufficient reasons to believe that this person was of the age of majority. In this case, at the appellate court, the High Court, the lady testified and said, I was at the beach with my brothers. I ran into the appellant's house, that is Martin Charo.
Yes.
He said what he said. My two brothers and my sister came at 1 a.m., peeped through the window, they saw us, and then they left. I stayed there for 3 days. Then I went home and told my father where I was for the past 3 days. She further stated that I've known this guy 3 years. And at that time, this lady was 14 years. So she's telling the court, I've known this guy for 3 years. And I went
3 years.
And when I left, I went home, told my parents where I was and what I was doing. It is the parents who went to report to the police station, and the guy was arrested. So the reasoning of the learned judge was, this lady was not a complainant. And from her actions, she acted in a manner like...
I think we are having a connection problem there. We are having a problem with your connection, and briefly, let me keep checking on the... There are people who are tuned in. Let me check some questions from them. JL Empire has a question there. Angelica Karitu, thanks for tuning in. Beverlyn Amusugut, thank you very much for tuning in. Mzito Junior, thank you very much, Mzito, for tuning in to the show. Chumo Kibet, I can see your text there. Thank you very much for tuning in. who else has tuned in? There were some questions up there. I'll be looking for them and reading them to our guests. I think we have the connection back. Your mic, your connection had gone a little bit slow. So I have another question, just in the same angle as you said. So you have said that someone will defend themselves if the lady in question behaves in a manner to suggest that she's over that age of consent, and this guy does not know. So let me take you back to this other case that we had discussed of incest. We are having cousins. There is another case where a boy, that was in Nyeri, a boy was sentenced. They were all the same age. They engaged in sex. They were cousins. They were underage. But then the boy was sentenced because he had impregnated the girl. Is it that the law is just against the boy child, or is it a case of who reported first? Because in this case, I am thinking that there is no discussion of consent when it comes to defilement and incest.
Yes, number one, there is no consent when it comes to defilement. Let me just allow me to section 42 of the Sexual Offences Act defines what a consent is. Just allow me to read it for you and all our viewers so that we get to understand the point you're coming from. So section 42 of the Sexual Offences Act, it says, for purposes of this act, a person consents if he or she by choice and has agrees by choice and has the freedom and capacity to make that choice. So you can only consent by choice if you agree, you have the capacity, and you are free. When you're talking about minor,
and by capacity you mean age.
Age. Capacity means strictly age. And therefore, somebody below the age of 18 doesn't have capacity to consent. Number two, it says freedom to do so. So if somebody has been abducted, somebody has placed a machete on your neck, somebody has intoxicated you or spiked your drink, to that extent, you don't have the freedom to consent, and that will amount to rape. Now, you asked me a question about the case in Nyeri, where two minors had intercourse. The boy was sentenced, the girl was set free. To everybody, that amounts to defilement. What is the definition of defilement? Penetration, penetration to the sexual organ to a minor. In this case, these are two minors. The punishment for defilement between 16 and 18 is 15 years or 15 years in prison.
In prison,
Yes, 16 and 14 is 15, is 20. Below 12 is life. All those sentences can be enhanced to life imprisonment. However, in this particular case, and I have the citation here, in this particular case, at the trial court, the boy was given 2 years probation sentence. Upon appeal, the High Court sent him to 12 months probation in Nairobi Hospital. Nairobi Hostel. This does not in any way amount to a punishment for defilement. 12 months probation is just a correction facility. And like I told you, these are two minors. The main purpose of the law, other than just punishing people, is to protect and also to deter. The law also stands to make sure that somebody else doesn't repeat what somebody has done. Or if you do it once, you don't repeat. So the 12 months this boy was handed was not to punish him for the defilement or incest. These are two minors. If in any event, they defiled each other. So if you have to sentence them, we have to look at both angles. But remember,
that's the point I was looking
even recently, I listened to
Yeah, that's the point I was looking for. And
so
my
recently
question
I
follows
was
that.
listening to Justice Kimaru after the interview of Justice Chitembwe, and
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
now Justice Luka Kimaru said recently that there is a need that we look into our sexual offenses.
Yes.
And I've been on record severally, time without number, having said that the law of sexual offenses, the law is female. The law tends to punish the boy child more than it does to a girl child. Because most of these offenses, initially, sexual offenses were governed by the penal code. So coming into place of the Act number 3 of 2006, which is the Sexual Offences Act, it
Yes.
introduced other crimes like child pornography, indecent acts, gang rape, and all those other acts. But in definition, most of these acts tend to define rape as causing penetration, defilement as causing penetration, and all these offenses. When you keenly look at the definition of all these offenses, they tend to say that only a boy child can be incriminated.
Yeah.
That is why we had a ruling, an opinion by Justice Njoki Ndung'u that tend to elaborate what amounts to penetration, what amounts to defilement. And therefore, there is
Yes.
a high need that we look into our Sexual Offences Act number 3 of 2006, so that we make sure that this law is not ambiguous. The definition must be very clear.
Very clear. Yes.
Because when you look at what defilement is defined as, what rape is defined as, most probably the law tends to assume is only a man who can defile a woman. It's only a man who can rape a woman and not the other way around. But it happens. So we need to have our law capture all these things and incorporate proper definition of all these offenses.
Yes, thank you very much. I have gotten that part, because even just the word penetration itself is very is very alarming. It seems to lean so much on the side of the boy child. Yeah, even by just language, for those who take the language as literal as it might be. So let's take some views from our audience. Here I have Mzito is saying that, is it fair to take such measures? Is it fair to take such measures? The sexual offenses against the youth who has just graduated to adulthood, that is in Kenya, 18 years old. Why does it happen? How sure are they that last year someone was 17 years, and because this year is 18, the person is already an adult, and the punishment between the two offenses is quite different? If I can just paraphrase what I think I get from him, he's saying that 17 and 18 is like you have your birthday tomorrow and you are 17 today. So what has changed? What has changed that will make you have all those about 15 years in prison, and then the following day you will have no sentence? What has changed?
Now, then why don't you just wait until after the birthday and then you commit the act? Because just wait for her or him to commit the birthday. But also, it is very important that you only get to know these things when you're legally married, so that you don't experiment along the road. So you, you
yes,
want
on the same. Yes, on the same. On the definition of rape, that definition means that your wife can actually accuse you of rape.
Now, section 43.
Yes.
On 43, subsection 5.
Yeah.
On consent, that is Sexual Offences Act. It says rape is when you cause penetration with another person without the express consent by use of
Yeah.
force or threats. However,
Yeah.
subsection 5 puts a caveat.
Yes.
There is an exception that this consent issue shall not apply to people who are legally married. Therefore, there is nothing in law as marital rape.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to get. Also, on the same line,
Yes.
let's take an instance where
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
rape is actually a very serious case in this country and it comes with emotions. But then you
Yes.
can have a case where
Yes.
we have these two adults,
Yes.
they have had consent to each
Yes.
other. And then,
Yes.
for instance, you have this is
Yes.
a man who has gone into a house. Then
Yes.
the boyfriend of this girl
Yes.
comes and finds,
Yes.
knocks on the door. Then the girl, knowing that
Yes.
there is danger because the boyfriend is outside the door, she decides to shout
Yes.
that she's being raped. So you have your word as one man against
Yes.
the word of these two people. If you are the lawyer
Yes.
representing this person who is being accused of rape and they had consent and is having his own word against the word of two people, how would you go about that case?
Yes. First of all, in such a situation, how do you first prove that there was consent in the first place? Number two, when somebody is alleging rape, there are some things that accompany an offense of rape to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. If there is no any mark to show that this lady struggled, if there is no any evidence or for quite some time, these people, they've been seen together and there is no any evidence to suggest that this lady was intoxicated or this guy took advantage of this lady, it will be a bit difficult to prove rape. Remember, rape is a criminal offense. And for one to be able to secure a conviction, it must be beyond reasonable doubt. And therefore, just a mere virtue of you screaming or making noise does not amount to enough evidence to be submitted before court to convict this guy. And therefore, there is so much that is required because you equally need a medical report, you need to fill a P3 form, and then you need to have all those evidential chain to suggest that to some extent there was rape because of 1, 2, 3. There was a struggle. The lady had struggled, marks all over the body of this lady or some pelvic areas, for example, for one to be able to come to court and convince the court that I was raped.
Yes, so that has come quite well because I was just about to ask you that if someone has been raped or their child has been defiled, what exactly are they supposed to do in that moment?
Number one, like I said, these are criminal offenses that must be proven beyond reasonable doubt. And therefore, once somebody has been raped or defiled, proceed to a police station. You'll be taken to the gender department.
Yeah.
You record your statement. Make sure this happens in under 72 hours. Go to a police station, record, get an OB. You'll be directed to go to a public hospital or a private hospital. The doctor will examine you. They'll fill a medical form. Then they'll come and collect the evidence, and then this person will be taken behind bars and be arraigned in court. But the first thing you do in case of confinement or rape, these are horrendous acts that when somebody has been raped or defiled, they may not be in the best capacity to know what to do at that moment. What is normally recommended is, number one, probably if you get out of the place that you be the crime scene, get to a place you'll consider safe.
Yes.
Call a person you trust the most. This person accompany you to a police station, or if a police station is far, go to an hospital. Let the doctor collect all the evidence. If you have spermatozoa, if you have pubic hair, if you have marks and all those clothes, let the doctor get all this evidence. Go to a police station, report your case. Will be taken to the gender department. A statement will be written, and this person will be arrested. But
Thank you.
make sure, yes.
Yes, you will come back with that part of make sure to finish. And as you also answer this other question someone has here, Alex Onsase is saying, what is an unacceptable instrument to measure anxiety or depression in adult males who have experienced sexual abuse during childhood? I don't know if you are in the capacity to answer that question. And also someone else here is asking, Orina Onyonka, is Sexual Offence Act silent on how judges and magistrates should treat two minors who willingly engage in sex? And he has said willingly. I don't know if there is that capacity, as you said, of consent between two minors. Yeah.
Now, between two minors, the law should be that, when you engage in sexual activity with a person under the age of 18, we cannot come and say this one consented and this one did not consent. We cannot come to this extent and treat one child as an adult and the other one as a minor. To this extent, the judges are at liberty to make their finding. And that is exactly what happened in this Nyeri case. Because if you look at the sentence that this boy was handed, was not necessarily to punish him for the sexual offense of defilement or rape, but it was to some extent to take him to a probation center for correction. So that when two minors engage in this thing, they should both be punished. But to this extent, I guess this minor was taken to probation because this kid, this lady, this girl child was pregnant and they were cousins. So to some extent, like I said earlier, the function of the law is to deter. This boy was taken in so that other young boys and
they can learn from it as a lesson.
You into jail or a probation center for 12 months, but that did not amount to punishment for a person who was defiled. Because these were two minors. Now, if you allow to answer the first question, I see somebody had said, you get to measure and get to know that this person was probably abused, sexually abused when he was young for a man. That was the question before, the one I responded. Somebody who has experienced sexual abuse, you can be able to monitor them and get to know that there is something that is not normal with them. If somebody is filed was a minor, there are some characteristics that they'll be exhibiting even as they grow to the age. If it's a lady, they'll tend to avoid men at all. Or if you find them in a room and then you enter without knocking, you'll see they'll be shocked. There is a reaction that they'll get that is not as normal as those people who've never experienced this. So if you are in a capacity to monitor, you can be able to say there is something that this person is undergoing and you'll be able to decipher. But it's a bit difficult if you cannot be able, right now we live in this century and currently in the country, people are experiencing depression.
Yes.
So you
kindly
should be able
be brief.
To know how.
Yes.
Yes. How the person is reacting, you can be able to know this person is depressed. So you go down to know the root cause of depression. And mostly you find out that these people will be dying with depression or having mental health issues because probably they're afraid of opening up. Number two, the perpetrator might be a close family member or a person who ought to be trusted. Or number three, probably this person ever tried to open up and the person they opened up to did not act or betray them. These are confidential things that people tend to carry in their house, and that some even commit suicide. So probably they open up to people, they don't take action, or you fear. Currently society tend to judge the victim, and you see what happens on social media when somebody posts about gender-based violence or depression. The backlash comes to the victim and not the perpetrator.
To the victim.
So people,
thank you.
So most
thank you very much.
Right.
We are having trouble with time, and I will just ask you to give me a final word on a very different topic. Just 2 words. Is the reggae still on?
The reggae is still on. However, the tune will not be the same. You remember, we used to know only reggae, but then later on, we came to know something called reading. So
Yes.
the reggae might stop, but we might have rhythm. Remember, we are being told the truth of the matter is only 13 counties discussed the best, the proposed amendment bill. Yes, the right one. So the others were given the wrong one. So we must ascertain who was in charge of handing over these reports and what was the motive behind handing over all these other forged reports to counties to waste our money and our time. To some extent, I tend to see, because this BBI process was exclusive club. We had exclusive people. So somebody is being betrayed from within.
Yes, so we wait for rhythm. Thank you very much for coming on board. I think we should have another session for politics. That would be quite interesting. Thank you very much, Nelson Mandela, for showing up for the show.
With prior notice, we can always have discussions, but make sure you give me sufficient time, because as you may know, my schedule is a bit tight, but I'll always create time so that we can interact.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. Yes, you are welcome. Thank you very much for those of you who have tuned in. Anne Lukelesia has tuned in all the way from Bungoma. Thanks very much, Anne. Valerie, Val, thank you very much, Val, for tuning in, though late. Kevin Falt, Negaga, amazing discussion. Thank you, Orina, for your questions. Mzito, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for those who send in their questions. Lumumba Felix, I have seen your participation. Thanks very much, Lumumba. Joseph Odiwar, thank you. Mzito, JL Empire. Angelica Karitu, thanks, Angie. Beverlyn was tuned. Onyonka, Alex, Willa Diaries, Alex Onsase, Oriwo Samuel Okech, thank you very much. Charles Mosembe, Daniel Ogetra. Why the variation in sex consent is different? I think we have tackled that. So thank you until next time. Thank you very much, Nelson. And everyone else, thanks for tuning in. See you next Thursday, same time, same show. Trends KE, the alternative voice. Before you leave, please remember to subscribe, like our page. If you are on YouTube, subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you very much.